Hello 394 subscribers. Today we're going to build an advanced AI agent for a wholesale business. We build similar things for our clients all the time in my agency. I'll show you how everything works, how to set it up, and then I'll share the templates so that you can just copy and paste it to your project. Now, this is the structure. Let's say we have a user question. We'll ask for the email as the verification to understand who this user is. Keep in mind that this is very simplified version. Obviously, this is not the final thing that you would probably sell to your clients or use for your business, but it will give you a pretty good understanding on what are the different ways how you can integrate AI into a wholesale business. Essentially, we'll ask for the email. And now we have a user question and the user info as the email. The user question will go to the context, but we need some more things. In order to get this information, we will use make and Airtable. So Airtable would be basically our CRM. Most of the businesses use some sort of an ERP like SAP Business One, and you would need to connect this SAP through the APIs to your agent. Again, we're not going to cover this in this specific tutorial, obviously, because the SAPs and the CRMs differs from business to business, but for this case, we'll just use Airtable. Now, we'll send the request to Airtable to identify, based on this email, either it's an existing user or a new user, basically the new client. And we'll provide this information as a context. Then we will send this context to a Voiceflow knowledge base, right? So in the knowledge base, we'll have, say, different price tiers, and with the question and with the context from Airtable, we'll send the context to the knowledge base that has different price tiers, and we'll provide the output. Now, let's actually set everything up. Obviously, again, you have already recorded this video if you watch it. In my resource hub, you can just copy and paste my template that I'm gonna build right now. It's free, so first link in the description. This is the Voiceflow. Obviously, we're building most of the text-based agents in our agency for our clients using Voiceflow, and even if we build a voice assistant, we use Voiceflow knowledge base. Anyways, I have multiple agents that I previously built for tutorials on this channel, and I have demo Airtable, so I will just duplicate this agent and we'll use it as a reference. We'll delete everything besides a few things. So as you can see here, these are a few API calls that I was illustrating on how to make, so that we just don't do everything from scratch. We can just delete this part and we'll delete everything like that. So we'll reuse this things later on, but let's actually start brand new. Now, we can greeting the user, obviously, and say greeting the user, be creative, use one emoji, just one sentence, something like that. We can put 4.0 as a modal, and then we'll obviously capture the user reply. Now, very important step, and I always mention in all of my tutorials, that we always save the whole conversation history in one variable. And for it, we are using a custom function called memory. Basically, if you go here in the functions, you will have this function. You will not if you create a new project, but if you copy my specific project, you will have it, right? So these variables should be all set. The idea is that after the user sent us a reply, we connect it to memory. So we need to update the memory. And for the last utterance, this is basically the last utterance from the user. Previous last response is the last response from the bot, and the previous custom memory is just, again, this is the first step, obviously, but when it will be the second, third, or fourth step, we need to update, provide old memory and add last utterance and last response and add it to the memory, right? So the custom variable, again, I'm not sure, you should have, again, if you copy my project, you will have all this variable set. So you just do it like I did here. we're mapping custom memory variable that we are referencing in the function to the custom variable here inside Voiceflow. Now, we have just updated the memory, and we need to response to the user, something like answer the user question and last utterance. Again, let's say be creative, all those things. And for the model for O, okay, so we can keep it like that. Now we answer, respond to the user. We're capturing the reply again. We're again saving the information here. And yeah, and we can just loop this conversation so that it's an infinite loop. When they ask a question here, the bot provide the response, and then it's looping us inside this thing. Obviously, these are the questions that are not, and the answers that are not based on the knowledge base, since as you can see here as a data source, we're choosing the AI model, not the knowledge base, since we don't have anything in the knowledge base. But for the sake, again, of this example, let's keep it very simple. Now, we will create an intent. Let's say we have a book a table anyway, so this is from the previous bot. So let's say when a user want to ask a question about the prices, so we want to send this specific user to another sequence which will be specifically designed for providing a price information. So what we can do is we can name it price info, and the trigger this intent when user want to get information about our prices, something like that. And what are your prices? I need to get price list. Send me prices, and let's generate 10 more, for example. I want the cost of your product, so it should be good. Now we create an intent, and for the settings, you can actually specify when you are listening for an intent. So do you want to use LLM like Sonnet, like Claude or ChatGPT to identify what the intent is, or you want to use natural language understanding? I would recommend to use LLM and actually use Sonnet and not Claude. I'm not sure why, but I found that it works the best for this specific case. Anyways, so now when we go back to the workflow, and let's move it higher. So in the trigger, we'll add a trigger, and we'll specify that this is the price info. So now when the user will ask the information about the price, we will send him a message. I'm not a big fan, as you can see, of just using the plain text. I'm always using instead of obviously here we can say, hi, how are you, in the plain text, but I'm a fan of using ChatGPT to make it more interactive. So we can say basically something like, what we can say, user want to get information about our prices, please ask for an email. Again, very simple. And then we'll capture the user reply. Now, so let's say that the user will say something like okay, and this is the problem when you are asking for a user details. Usually they do not provide you something right away, or if they do, they will not send just the email. So they would say something like, this is my email, and email, right? And if you save this whole thing into the variable, it will not be usable. That's where you actually need to have another step like set AI. So I would add a memory. Again, after each capture step, we should add a memory so that we update it constantly. Now we will go to set AI, and this is what we're gonna ask. Analyze the last user utterance. Okay, so, and let's actually do last utterance. if the utterance has an email address in it, please output just the email address. If the utterance doesn't have an email address, ask the user to provide it. Something like that. Actually, and this is the thing that we would need to like verify, because we will save this information is email variable. Yeah, so this is what we can do. Basically, let's say a user will ask, okay, so it means that AI will identify that the email does not exist in this specific message and will ask the user to provide it. So, and if the email exists, it will just the output email. And we can, again, your goal is to either provide an email or a question. Never provide anything else besides these two things. We need to use the best model possible because to make it, because we just need to get only the email if the user already provided it. In the temperature, we need to lower it down to 0.1 so that again it follows the script and the prompt exactly. Now we will either have a question or we will have an email in this variable. In the logic, we'll add a condition where we'll say, okay, so let's say is question is email, because we are saving this in the is email variable contains, let's say at, means that there's an email, right? Contains at, then you go, then continue, or if it's not, basically no match path. So if it does, you'll go to the next step. If it does not, we need to actually display this variable to the user, because we are asking AI to, if the user did not provide an email, ask the user to provide it. So now in the text, we can display this is email and then capture this and add a capture step, and then we'll loop this back here. I think it should be clear. Okay, let's actually test this. Good. Okay, so let's test this thing. So it's asking for the email. Okay, okay, sure. Now it will go here. Could you please provide your email? It will not go through. Okay, sure. Yeah, it's Gina Kazan at gmail.com, something like that. And now it will go through, obviously. And the variable should have is email, should have just this email. Now, here's what we need to do. Now, we basically, when the user provided us the email as the identifier, and you can use, an account number if you're working with an existing, obviously, client, and they have a database, like, obviously, inside any ERP, they have an identifiers of the customers. And if you can get these identifiers and like send the API request to this ERP using these identifiers, it will be much easier for you. Now we essentially, let's say we have the email and the email is saved in is email variable. Now we need to send an request to, okay, so this is the scenario that I used. Okay, let's actually build it from scratch so that you can see how everything works, because I was testing before this video how it should be done. Now we'll create a new scenario in Make, and we'll create a webhook, custom webhook, add, save. Okay, so now we have the webhook. Now, when we have, let's see, let's actually move it here. And this is just the thing, like this is the flow of how you should work with the make webhook. Webhook responses and calls. Again, you have my template so that you can just copy and paste it. Inside the webhook, we'll use the post and we'll provide this webhook that we have just created for the content type, application. Now, this is the body that we're going to send to this specific webhook. And if you remember, all right, so we can actually delete this one and go straight here. So we have the email saved in the isEmail variable. So we can say, so is email, something like that. Okay, so we are sending, we're calling this webhook, and we are sending an email parameter with the specific email that the user just provided. So let's actually save it and test. So it will ask for the email. We can say gino@gmail.com. Now we have this email in this webhook. We need to add an Airtable because obviously, again, and this is the most important part, and this is the hardest part usually when you work with real businesses, to identify and to connect to their apps. Obviously, with Airtable, it's easier since there's first a connection in make, which is pretty straightforward. But even if you're gonna call the Airtable APIs, it's not as hard. They have great documentation, but with other apps, especially with old school softwares, it's kind of a mess. Now, let's actually first create, because I have also the demo Airtable base here, but let's actually create one from scratch. So let's call it a wholesale demo, and let's imagine that this is our CRM. For the name, we'll use customer, like business name, like company name. We don't need notes. We don't need any of this. So let's say we'll provide the email. We'll use the maybe phone. What else? Like it doesn't matter in this case, since we will just use Airtable to verify if the user exists inside our CRM or not. But obviously, when you work with real businesses, it's going to be more complex. So let's say that will be company 1 and company 2, company 3, company 2, company 3. So let's create some random emails. Okay, so like this. Okay, so these are the emails, and for the phone numbers, is it the US phone number? It's one more digit. Okay, so 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this is our example CRM. Now we need to connect this specific CRM to our Airtable. Essentially, you first need to set up the connection, but my connection is already set up. When I click the search records, because we need to find the records, you set up the connection, and here I choose the base, so the wholesale demo base that we have just created. And for the table, we'll use the table 1 since we have just one table. And for the view, we don't need any view. For the output fields, so let's output everything. And for the formula is very important. Obviously, this is how you would find the clients inside the Airtable. So this is the formula that I have. Essentially, this is the email one, but you need to change it to the field that has all the emails. So in this case, it's just the email. So we'll choose email. So the formula is basically, it's looking for the email field, and the email field needs to be equal to an email address. right? And in our case, this is my my address that we have sent from Voiceflow into the webhook in Make. Now, so if we test it and if we run this module, it will ask us for the email. If we get this email right? So if we get this email and we provide it here, it found the record company too. But if we will say something like this, gmail.com, obviously it will not find any records, and will provide 0 as the output. So what we need to do now, since again our goal is to verify if the customer already exists in the CRM and provide one price type, and if the customer doesn't exist in the CRM, provide another type. So another like price structure basically. So we need to send this information back to, since we are calling the webhook here, and we need to send this information back to the Voiceflow. Here's how you should do that. First, obviously, we need to set a route step, router. Yes, so I'm just thinking. So yeah, so it should be a router, and in the filter we set, obviously, because we have here, for example, when the email doesn't exist, in the total number of bundles we have 0. So let's say it means that the customer doesn't exist, right? So we here we set up a filter. In the condition we put the total number of bundles, and here is should be numeric operations equals to 0. It means that the customer doesn't exist. For the second scenario, we'll set up the filter, kind of similar thing, but now the not equal to 0. So all the customers that we will be able to find in our CRM will go on this route. Now we need to send this information. Let's say that we want to send whatever, like, say, run the scenario, and let's actually get this email. So let's say that we want to send all this information, like the ID, phone, email, and company name, back to Voiceflow. The problem is that these are just separate fields, so you need to aggregate them together and then send as a JSON. So you can do the iterator, I think it is, yeah, aggregator. So you put the array aggregator, you choose the Airtable search records, and yeah, custom, and you select all the fields. So you need to aggregate all these fields into one thing. And now we will add a JSON, basically transform to JSON, and we'll provide this array, and we'll transform it to JSON. And for the webhook response, we will provide basically a JSON string. Now, when the customer will be found, all the information about this customer will be sent back to Voiceflow. But if the customer was not found, let's say we want to send a webhook back, and we actually, I think, need to structure it properly still. Like, because if we're gonna send 000, it's not gonna be properly sent. Where's the, okay, so let me actually find the JSON. Yes, something like that, I think. So we can send, okay, so this is just an example so that I don't mess up the JSON, the JSON format. So we can delete everything here, okay, here, and we'll say customer doesn't exist, something like that. Okay, I'm turning on my AC. Okay, so let's save it and let's actually test run this thing. Let's start, and let's provide the email right away, like here. Let's provide this email. Sure, my email is this. Now, obviously, it will get the email, save it in the variable, and then we have, sorry, yeah, so we have the phone number already, I think. Yeah, so it's already getting the phone number, but it's doing that because, as you can see, it works. But the problem is that we need to capture the response. We need to capture the information about the user from this API call. So let's actually test it one more time. Yeah, so this is the information that we get, and it's, in this case, since again I just duplicated the project, it was capturing the phone and provided this phone. But let's say what we need to do. Let's actually test another flow. So let's, as you can see, it got the email and it went to this specific flow. But when we provide the email that doesn't exist, it goes here, and we provide. We don't receive. We actually don't receive anything, I think. Anyways, so that's okay. Basically, we need to capture. Let's see what we need to capture. Let's say that we need to capture the ID. Okay, for example, ID. So it will capture the ID. Then it will stringify this ID. Again, you can just copy and paste what I do here, and other videos I explain how it works and why you need to do that, but essentially we're just trying to create a different format so that you can display it inside inside Voiceflow. So you call the webhook, you capture the ID from the response, from the webhook response, then you are in the API variable, then you are stringifying this variable, and then you output this variable. Now, so let's actually let's do this. Let's do the same thing, but when our email doesn't exist, it should provide us just 0, like empty. Yeah. So, but then if we provide the email that does exist, this one, now it will provide us ID. Okay. So now, let's say this is the flow, like this is the part where we verify if the user exists in our CRM or not. The fun part begins now, when we need to provide different information depending on the user. I got this company as an example. So this is like some random wholesaler that sell cleaning supplies. Instead of just getting all their products as the CSV, and like I'm not even sure how to, like, obviously you can scrape the website and kind of format it, but essentially the clients that you will work with will have all their products in CSV. But for my case, what I did is I asked ChatGPT basically to create 2 files, one with the prices of some random cleaning supplies formatted in Markdown, and I'll explain later why it's important. So these are the prices for, let's say, new customers, and these are the prices for existing customers. So we have 2 different price tiers for different customers. So what we need to do is we will go to, let's say, Knowledgebase, we'll copy this file, and we'll provide, and let's, like, for the sake of this video, so we can just even remove the new customer, customer type 1. Let's say customer type 1, this will be a new customer, and let's say that this will be a customer type 2. Customer type 2. Okay, so let me explain. First, why it's in Markdown. There's no way to upload CSV files in Voiceflow inside just the interface, right? So not through the APIs. That's where the Markdown comes in handy. So essentially, you can create the product list with the product information with the Markdown formatting. So you can also do that with the JSON, like basically do the same thing and ask the ChatGPT to format this thing into the JSON format. But I found that the Markdown usually works better when it comes to the price, like the simple two column CSV files, because there's one column with the item name and the second column with the item price. And I will create a new video where I will explain the formats and like what formats work better for certain cases. But in this case, this is just the Markdown. Now, let's say a user asks, hey, what is your price for toilet paper? But we have two prices here. And in the knowledge base, we do not specify. So the AI has two prices, right? This is one price and this is two price. So like similar item with two different prices. So how does AI can differentiate that this is the actual prices for the new customers, right? So customer type 1, yes, no, sorry, this is because the toilet paper is more expensive for the new customers. Basically, this is the type 1 is the new customer and type 2 is an existing customer. So how does AI identify who is who? Yes, you can do. That's where like you can name this thing as a column, like the existing customers and new customers, but it's not gonna work. It may work in this use case since we don't have too much items and too much information. But when we have a huge database, it's not gonna work. Plus, when you have different tiers, even for existing customers, you have multiple different layers. That's where Voiceflow tags comes in handy. So essentially, you can tag each document. So these are basically called documents inside Voiceflow knowledge base, and you can tag each document with a specific tag, right? And one tag, like you can you can create a tag called new customers and tag the information which only applies to new customers with this specific new customers tag. And then you can create a new tag with existing customers and tag the information, the documents that have information for existing customers. And this is what we're going to do. Unfortunately, again, you cannot do that here inside the Voiceflow interface. I do believe that they will add it eventually, but it's not as hard to do that through their API interface. Again, it might sound like complex, but bear with me, it's very simple. You don't need to know how to code. Essentially, you'll go to Docs Voiceflow API reference. Again, this link, all the links, all the templates, everything will be in my resource hub for free, like first link in the description. So, but here you have API reference, so you have the tags API endpoint. And yes, like usually what softwares do, they provide just the documentation, but what Voiceflow also does is they provide you an interface, right? So, and you can provide your API key here, and you can actually interact with your knowledge base from this interface, right? So that's why I'm saying that it's a no-code solution. Basically, here we go to the create knowledge base tags, right? So we need to create two tags, new customers and existing customers. So you need to provide your API key here. I'm not sure if it's the correct one. Let's actually drag it here. You go to the integrations, you copy your key here, and you will paste it here. Now, and this is the request, you don't need to change anything here. If you scroll down in the object, so here in data, it's asking what is the name of knowledge base tag that you want to create. So let's create the one called new. And when we click try it,
as you can see, it created the tag. Obviously, you don't see it here. So if you go to your knowledge base, nothing changed. So you don't see any tags, you don't see anything. But on the back end, inside this specific assistant, since you provided this assistant API, this tag called new was created. Now let's create another tag called existing. Okay, and as you can see here, try it. It will provide, so it will provide the different tag ID. Now, we did just created 2 tags. And now we need to tag these documents with these tags. And for it, you will do that through attaches kb tags to a document, but first we need to get ID of these documents, right? And you can do that by going to document API endpoints and go to document list. So here we will receive the document list for, like, basically for this agent, right? When you jump from tab to tab, the API key doesn't change, so it's easy. You just go here, you don't need to put anything, and you just click try. And now, as you can see, total, we have 2 documents, right? So it got these 2 documents. And these are 2 documents, like, let's actually copy them. And we can go here and some random text editor. These are 2 documents. So we have the document 1 is the type text, and these are the customer type 1, customer type 2. And we have the ID for this document, right? So the ID for the customer type 1 and the ID for customer type 2. Okay, so we have the IDs. And now we essentially go back to the tags API and we need to attach this tags that we have just created to these documents. As you can see here, we need to provide the document ID. And we go here and we get, let's say, the document ID for the customer type 1. Okay, now I forgot. So the customer type 1, yeah, so this is the new customer. And here in the object, we attach a tag called new. And as you can see, it created the API call, basically with the data tags new, right? So you are attaching the tag new to this specific document. And if you click try it, it should say okay. Yeah. So now this document, like the tag new, was attached to this document. You don't see it here, but it happened because you received okay here. Now we will provide another document ID, and this time we will attach existing tag to this document. Let's click try. Okay. Now, like, just to test it, so you can, let's say, some random tag, and if you click try it, it will give you an error since the tag does not exist. And since we already created the tag before, it went through. Now, basically, we're done, right? So now we have a knowledge base that has 2 documents, and these documents are tagged with new and existing tags. Okay. Now, what we need to do is, let's say the user asks, what is the price for a toilet paper? Then we ask if the customer exists, and based on the response here, we need to send either price 1 or price 2. Here's how you should do that. Essentially, yes, you can use, and what people usually use, the response AI, and they connect it here. And as a data source, we provide the knowledge base, and the question is, the last user utterance, for example, not in this case, it's not the last utterance since the last utterance was the email. But anyway, so let's say this utterance is what is the toilet paper price, and we'll provide the output. But again, the problem is that there are 2 different prices. So here's how you can go about it. This is how you should do that. if you have just one price point using the native Voiceflow features, but we will call the API of the knowledge base from our Voiceflow assistant. I know it might not be as straightforward, but let me actually show you how it works. Essentially, we are creating an API call, and you can configure this call when you go to query API in the query. But again, I have it, you will have it in my template. So yeah, just use it. Basically, we are having the endpoint, and for the authorization, we are providing our API key. And I'm not sure, yeah, so it might not be the correct one. So let's actually copy this thing and let's go back and let's paste this API key. For the content type, application JSON. And this is the interesting part. So we are essentially querying, we are sending the question to the knowledge base, to the same knowledge base, basically to here, right? So the same thing that we just did, that we can do with the response AI with the knowledge base, same thing, but using the API. But here, if you look closely, we have the tags. So it means that, let's say, the question of the user is, what is the price for toilet paper, right? And obviously we will use the variable here, but again, for the sake of this example, let's say, what is the price for the toilet paper? And for the reference, we will only get tags, like we will only get documents that have tags called new. Essentially, it will not get, for the reference, it will not get the document number 2, since this document has a tag called existing. So it only gets the documents that have new tag. And obviously, like, you can think yourself that when you have like 50 and 100 documents, and let's say you have 10 that have one tag, 10 that will have another tag. So that's where when you specify in your API call to the Voiceflow knowledge base, when you specify that you only want to work with the tag new, it will only get the 10 documents that, or how many, get the documents that have this specific tag, okay? And this is the API call. Essentially, the question is, what is the price of the toilet paper? And this is the new, and the tag is new. When we test this request, in the output, we should have $13, right? And this is, if you look closely, yeah, so like even here, you can see that this is the price for the customer type 1. But now, when we change this specific tag to existing, send the request, you will have the price $10, okay? Now, obviously, this thing should be dynamic. Should be either dynamic, or you should do 2 different API calls for different customer types. But let's make it a bit more complicated than it should be. So we can create a tag called, let's say, we can create a variable called tags. Let's say tag, just tag, okay? Let's create this variable tag. And for the user question, we already have, I think, some variable. Now, obviously, here in the API call, instead of providing the static value, we will use the variable called tag, right? Tag. So this would be either new or existing. And for the user question, we'll change it later. Now, we have the API like variable that has the either 0 or information about the customer. Now we can set AI and ask AI to analyze it. So we can say, analyze the customer information here. And we can say that API, it's in the API variable. If the information does not exist, output 1. If the information does exist, output 2. You must always output either 1 or 2. Never output anything besides 1 or 2. Okay? And we will save this information in the new variable called, let's say, is_info. And for the prompt settings, we'll use for O, and let's keep the temperature down. Now, when API, like variable from here, let's say we provided the customer provided the email which doesn't exist in the CRM, it will have 0, so it will provide 1. Or if the information does exist, it will provide 2. So we will use the same kind of condition step that we used previously for verifying the email, and we'll use the variable, we'll use what is it? Is_info, sorry. Is_info. And is_info is 1. So it means that the information doesn't exist, right? And the no match will create a no match. So when the information doesn't exist, what we will do, we will set the variable called tag to, I think we need to, yeah, so we need to do that, to new. Okay. But if the information, so like if the is_info is not 1, it means that it's 2, since we only ask the AI to provide either 1 or 2, then you can just duplicate this step. Okay, let's duplicate this step. Is 2, then provide the tag to existing. Now we have 2 tags. And when we make the API call, we will reference one of these tags here. But there's only one thing left, which is the question. So essentially what you can do, obviously, like, let's say this is the loop. And the people, like, when they talk to the assistant, hi, how are you, what's the weather, they loop inside this thing. But when they ask, what is the price info of the toilet paper, they will go here. The problem is that there's, like, you can capture just one question and send this and save this question as a variable called like question and then reference it here. But it's not ideal, since people might not provide a question right away. They can say, sure, my question is, and then the next message would be the question. That's where, again, the set AI step is useful. If you remember here, we are saving all the information. We're essentially saving all the information into, for some reason it was not saved, custom memory variable, all the conversation history in the custom memory variable. I think we forgot to put one here. Yeah, so we need to put one more here. After, again, just try to put it after each capture user reply block. Okay, so here. Now, so if you think about it, basically this custom memory variable will have the whole conversation history. And if we provide it to the AI will be able to understand what is the user question from the whole conversation. So we can say your goal is to identify what is the user question. Below, I will provide the whole conversation history. Please analyze it carefully and find the last question that the user asked, and output this question. You must always only output the question, nothing else. Okay, so and now we can say user question. So we'll create a user question variable, user question. Okay, and in the prompt settings, we'll again do the same thing, and we'll lower the temperature. Here is the context. And in the context, we will reference custom memory variable. So essentially, we're asking a, hey AI, please like analyze the whole conversation history of the user and identify what's the last like question that he asked, and then save it to this variable. And now it doesn't matter like either this is the new customer or existing customer, right? And then we can do the call to Voiceflow Knowledgebase. Essentially, and in the question, we will reference this variable is question. Okay. And yeah, so this will be it. I think we'll capture the reply, capture the response output. Yeah, so the output, we'll capture the output since the output is the thing that Knowledgebase returns as the answer, and like save it in the also in the API variable. We'll also stringify the value, and we'll provide this to the user. Okay, success here, and we don't actually need this one, so let's connect it here. Okay, let's finally test this thing. Now, so before actually starting this thing, we need to train the agent since we created the intent so that it can classify it easily. Let's wait for the training to be finished. We can run the test and say, hi, how are you doing? Something like that. And as you can see, it's trying to classify each message, but since it's not like we have just two intents, either none or price info, and like there's 0% that this message can be classified as the price info. But now when we see something like what is the toilet paper price, it should go to the price intent. Now it will ask us for the email, since again we have two different prices. Let's actually provide the real email. You can say okay. It will not go through since we have not provided the email. Could you please provide your email? Sure, it's this. It will send the API call to make. Okay, so now it's added the tag new, and we have null. Okay, so I think we messed up something at least. Now, let's actually see what's going on. Because you can see that we called the make scenario. I'm not sure if it's okay. So as you can see, it's lagging for some reason. It's not showing the correct path. Okay, let's reload it. Okay, so it goes here. Yeah, so here should have it. So we should have sent this information. We stringified the API call variable, and the API call variable has like, then we classify this thing. Then we classify this thing as the isInfo. Okay, so let's do, wait. So information does not exist. So for some reason, when we like just tested this this thing, it like output 1. So it did not find the information from API thing. So let's, in this case, so let's test this variable again, and let's see if it works this time. So okay, let's go here. And let's say, okay, this is our email. Okay. Yeah, sorry, because here we essentially, when we are making the call, if you remember, we are just saving the, we're just saving the ID. So obviously, like it cannot, like when we are asking AI to classify this, it just has either 0 or ID. There's no information, so that's why it probably resulted with 1 in the isInfo variable. Okay, so here let's actually capture the whole response. Okay, and let's actually test it now when we provide this information. We provide this email. Okay, now we have the company information. Awesome. So let's continue and let's see if it works this time. It probably did not, since even though we got the information, like it didn't get the information, but the response was not correct. So let's actually try to debug it in live. So when we provide this email, okay, here. Okay, so calling the API. So we have null. Okay, interesting. So let's actually debug this. So we got the existing, I think, correctly. And then we are providing the question and we are saving it as a user question. So let's actually test. Maybe we didn't have the question, right? So maybe because when we were testing, maybe we didn't have the question. So like, let's debug it here and say is question. So let's is info. No, user question, sorry. User question. Okay, so let's see. What is the price for toilet paper? So let's provide this email. And let's see if it will capture our, so let's, can you please provide the email address? Okay, so can you please provide your email address so that we can send you the detailed info? And this is the problem. So this is the question that was asked by AI, right? Not by the user. And since it has all the conversation, so the variable custom memory has the whole conversation, it's like it's messing this up. Your goals to the user question below. I will provide the whole conversation history between AI, our company, and the user. Please analyze it carefully and find the last question that the user asked, not the AI asked, and output only this question. Okay, let's see if it helps. I think it's GPT-4o. Yeah. Okay, so let's actually see what is the toilet paper price. Okay, so here we provide the email. Okay. Can you please provide your email? It's having a hard time, I think, to identify what is the actual lost user question and what is the AI question. So let me debug this thing and see how it can be resolved, because here in the tag, as you can see, it got the existing tag since like it's working properly. But the problem is here. Okay guys, so I made a very beginner mistake. Essentially, when we are asking, let's say, to provide us a question, and each step, each capture user reply step is waiting for an intent. So essentially, when, like, let's say on this step, we're asking, send me prices for toilet paper, it does not go to memory function. So the question was not actually saved, and it went to the intent, and then the AI asked for an email. So the question was missing in the custom memory variable from the conversation history. That's why AI was not able to actually, provide it as the user question, since there is nothing in the conversation history. But so how I fix it is basically I created another function for the custom memory before the price info, before AI asked the information about user email, so that when we say send me prices for toilet paper, it goes to the intent, save this last utterance in the custom memory variable, and only then ask for the email. And now when we say that this is my email, now it should work properly. It's calling the webhook. Okay. Then stringify the value, identify that we're an existing customer, calls the Knowledgebase API, and then provide us a response that it's 1046 for an existing customer. So same thing, let's test if we are not existing customer. If we ask the same question, send me prices for toilet paper. But now if we provide some random email, gmail.com, it will identify that we are not an existing customer from the CRM, and will provide us another set of prices. It's going to be $13. Guys, okay, so I think you got the idea. Essentially, you can first use the Knowledgebase tags in order to specify what documents for what user type you would want. And you can configure, obviously you need to use a lot of set AI steps in order to configure like different variables, set them based on certain conditions, but you can create very in-depth flows. And of course, this example, we got, this wholesaler, or like not this, I think we haven't actually got anything from this one. What I was planning is obviously like get the description of the company and like provide it to the Knowledgebase. Also, when the user would ask something like, what do you guys do? What products do you guys sell? It would provide the information about like the brands that we work with and maybe some like information. But when the user will ask what's the exact price, it will go to the specific intent. But again, I just don't want to make this video 2 hours long. I think you got the idea. It's not that hard to do. And as you can see, they have like the account basically, and this is what bigger wholesalers and manufacturers even manufacturers do. They have like their clients can create accounts, and what you can do, you can create a separate set of assistants for this specific account. So when the user logged in, they will have an access to the Knowledgebase with specific tags, so that when they ask for the specific information, they can only get information which has a specific tag, like the logged in user or something like that. Okay, my goal was just to provide you all the information. If you want to get access again to this template, I will just publish this right now to my resource hub. I'll also publish this specific main scenario, like export it, and you can click import blueprint and use it. Yeah, so I think it was helpful. I hope it was helpful. So thanks for watching. Peace.